Being compared to my father was never a problem for me, as it's pretty simple. For me, being compared to the best driver in F1 history is the goal you want to achieve, and I feel honored to be compared to him because I can just learn and try to improve.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.
Now before you get any further into the video, I have a confession to make. Ever since I was a little kid, Michael Schumacher was and will always be my hero, and the family alliance follows on to his son Mick, so I obviously have a soft spot for him. However, I'm also someone who tries to put bias aside when making my videos and be as balanced as possible, and I will do my best to do the same here, so I hope you can see where I'm coming from. From a number of people in the F1 community, I'm seeing some seriously unjustified criticism of Mick Schumacher just because he has the same surname of whom many believe is the greatest Formula 1 driver of all time. Not only does that make Mick possibly the most scrutinised driver to ever step foot on this planet, but many expect him to emulate his dad. Most sons of famous F1 drivers have massive pressure to succeed, champions even more so. Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve and Nico Rosberg immediately come to mind, but Mick, his expectations are levels above that. I thought I'd make this video to discuss why if Mick continues his current form, he deserves a place in F1 on merit and not only due to his surname. Let's get the name argument out of the way first. For those that think that he's getting an F1 seat because of it, I'm not denying there's a little bit of truth in that. There is no doubt that for sentimental value, the Schumacher name in F1 would generate a lot of buzz, and it makes logical sense marketing wise for both Ferrari and for the wider sport to get him into F1 as soon as possible. Merch sales alone would be huge. Nevertheless, if he wasn't very good, I'd be the first to say that he doesn't deserve a seat. A perfect example of this is Giuliano Alesi. His dad might not be a world champion, but he was a damn good driver and a Ferrari legend. But unfortunately his son Giuliano is not F1 standard and never will be. Mick didn't even use the Schumacher name at the beginning of his career as he wanted to be his own person and earn the right to success. Right the way through karting he used his mother's maiden name to keep himself out of the limelight, and his results back then proved that he had the talent to further his junior career. When looking at Mick's junior career so far, he's had a lot of success, but we often see that he's a slow starter and takes time to adapt to a new series, whilst he always seems to do better in the following season. In his second season of Formula 4 he came second, in Formula 3 he came first, and in this year's F2 Championship he currently sits in second. For me this isn't a bad thing as different drivers acclimatised to new machinery quicker than others, but since Max Verstappen's shock entry into F1 in 2015 with only one full season of single-seater racing under his belt, fans now expect drivers to win each junior championship first time round and move into F1 in only a few years. We've also seen this with George Russell and Charles Leclerc. But some of the best drivers to get championships at the top level didn't win junior series at their first attempt. The turning point for Mick where most people recognised his talent was in his second year of Formula 3 in 2018. Once again he had a slow start, but something clicked at Spa-Francorchamps, the 15th race of the season. He took his first win that day and was suddenly in a zone where nobody had ever seen him in before, and he dominated the second half of the season, taking 7 more wins including 5 in a row, 3 of which were at the same weekend at the Nürburgring. Before the win at Spa he was 10th in the championship, whilst at the end of the season he won the title by 57 points ahead of current F2 driver Dan Ticktum. He was so good in the second half of the season, Dan actually questioned the legality of Mick's car. The quality of the field wasn't too bad either, and there are a few big names in there like Robert Schwartzman, Marcus Armstrong, Guan Yu Zhou and Yuri Vitz. To beat those guys you need some serious talent. Mick's journey in F2 has been very similar. In his first season he scored 1 sprint race win in Hungary and the rest of the year was pretty mediocre as he struggled to adapt to the Pirelli tyres, whilst he was also involved in a few collisions, the worst of which came at Monaco where he caused a red flag. However, there were a few glimpses of brilliance, such as his charges through the field in Austria and Italy after starting near the back. If we fast forward to today where Mick's now in his second season in F2, the difference between this year and last is night and day. Not only is he showing the raw speed that he had before, but his tyre management and racecraft has improved massively. In probably the most talented F2 grid in years, Mick's currently second in the standings, only 6 points behind Callum Ilott and he scored 7 podiums, the most of anybody so far this season. He hasn't been faultless though and he's made a few mistakes, notably in Austria where he went off after a safety car restart whilst in a podium position, and when accidentally hitting his teammate when overtaking him for the lead at Silverstone. However, he's been Mr. Consistent and we all know that consistency wins championships, whilst his dominant performance at Monza will only give him more confidence to kick on and hopefully add more wins to his tally. Over the last few years, Mick has also had a few outings in F1 cars due to him being part of the Ferrari Driver Academy. He drove for both Ferrari and Alfa Romeo and posted competitive lap times, although we shouldn't take these too seriously as they were part of an in-season test session. Mick was very comfortable in the car, and with Ferrari especially, he felt at home as he knew a lot of the team growing up. Alfa Romeo team principal Fred Vasseur said that Mick will be getting the car at some point later on in the year, so I assume he'll get a couple of free practice sessions. The most welcoming aspect of Mick is his ability to be a brilliant team member, a trait he seems to have got from his dad when watching him drive for Ferrari. Everybody at Prema loves him, and he gets on really well with his fellow academy drivers and teammates. He always thanks the team whatever the result, and he's also the first to sincerely admit when he's made a mistake. A lot of drivers make up excuses for poor performances and errors. Mick is not one of those people, which is refreshing to see. He's also shown incredible levels of mental toughness throughout his career. Not only has he got huge expectations due to his surname, but after his dad's skiing accident in 2013, which Mick as a child actually saw with his own eyes, nobody in public knows his condition, and Mick has had to keep that information private whilst growing up. I'm sure he's constantly asked about his dad, yet he remains fully focused and concentrated on racing. I think people overlook that side of his life when judging him both as a driver and on a personal level. When looking at 2021, there only seems to be a few seats available for the Ferrari junior drivers. Probably one at Haas if Grosjean gets dropped and two at Alfa if Giovinazzi goes and Kimi retires. The only problem is that I can't see Alfa taking two rookies as they need experience to help develop the car. You can't forget that Nico Hülkenberg and Sergio Perez deserve a drive, and I think either of them will take one of the seats at Alfa. That means that one of the juniors will miss out and gives Ferrari a difficult decision to make as they all warrant a drive. If I'm honest, I think what we all need to do is give Mick a bit of space to allow him to be himself and continue his development. He's his own person, and although the comparisons with his dad will obviously be there, we shouldn't put him under so much pressure just because of his surname. He's talented in his own right and has proved to us all that he's got what it takes to reach the pinnacle of motorsport. We just need to let him develop at his own pace and not rush his growth. If that means he needs another year in F2, so be it. But in my eyes, he's ready for the step up and I think he'll be a star of the future. Perhaps not a 7-time world champion, but talented enough to forge his own legacy as Mick Schumacher. Well guys, those are my thoughts on Mick Schumacher. As I said, I'm a huge fan of his, but putting my bias aside, there is evidence that he's good enough to reach F1. I want to know what you guys think of him. Do you agree with what I said? If not, why? And who do you think will win the F2 Championship this season? It's so close at the moment between Eilert, Schwartzman and Schumacher. Don't forget Tsunoda as well. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to hear from me more regularly, go and follow me on Twitter. My link's in the description below. Anyway guys, thanks again and I'll see you in the next one.